Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, aka the Bod Father, and as always, I'm bringing you guys awesome interviews. And today it is an honor and privilege to have my good friend back on the show. He is guitarist Mr. Rusty Cooley. You're going to be talking about his band that he's got out right now called Day of Reckoning. They've got one EP out called Into the Fire Part 1, and he's also working on Into the Fire Part 2 right now. So, Rusty, how's it going, my man?
It's going good, man. It's going good. It's good to be back on the show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, not a problem whatsoever. So let's jump right into this. What's impressed you the most about making these two EPs, Into the Fire Part 1, and what's more impressive with Part 2?
Well, it's not so much that one or the other is more impressive, because it was initially intended to be one full album, and we were just in a situation where, we wanted to try something different. And so we had the opportunity to get, the first half out in advance. So we just decided to do that. Let's try something different. The music industry's on a, is all upside down right now anyway. So I think anything's worth giving it a shot. So we just put out Part 1, and Part 2 is going to be, the second part of the full album. But the cool thing about Part 2 is that we've actually went in and retracked all the drums with our new drummer. And that's exciting. So that's why it's taken longer for Part 2 to come out, because our drummer actually is from Bangalore, India. And he was over here, and we had him retrack all the drums while he was here. And we did some cool shows, which we can maybe talk about in a little bit or whatever. But we've got all of his drums retracked. So we went ahead and retracked the bass. That's done. And now it's my turn to get in there and retrack all the rhythm guitars. And I'm not sure if Brad's going to do vocals again or whatnot, or if I'm going to do more solos, or not sure about that yet. We just wanted to make sure that, with the new drum tones, we had some good guitar and bass tones to mash up. So it's going to be that much more intense. And it's pretty cool, because you're going to get to hear it, another side. It's like you hear Part 1 and you dig it, and then you hear Part 2 and it's like, wow. It's the thing that you can always be sure of when you listen to Day of Reckoning is that you're never going to get the same thing over and over again.
I was going to ask, a lot of bands these days are doing EP routes. Why did you guys want to do an EP and then come out with another EP and not do just a full length, man?
Well, just between me and you, or it doesn't really matter, everybody's going to know anyway. I mean, it was really a financial thing. Okay. We had a good friend. It was like, a guy that I've been friends with a long time, Dale Rasco, said, man, what are you doing? Why don't you have a new record out? You do a new solo album or something. I said, well, I got the Day of Reckoning thing that I'm doing now. And he's like, well, what is it going to take? And I said, well, we've got the first half ready. And he threw down the money, and he's quote executive producer. And thanks to Dale, everybody's got Into the Fire Part 1 now. So that allowed us to, time to get that out now, so it wouldn't be delayed any longer. That was pretty much why we did it that way. Mm-hmm. And it's again, it's like I said, the music industry is really turned upside down, and you don't know what's going to work anymore these days. I mean, heck, you could potentially just release a single every 2 months if you wanted to, instead of even putting out an album the way things work now. Anything goes, really, so
that's what John 5 was doing. He was putting out a new song each month for his new album, saying, here you go, guys, pretty much.
Well, that's pretty cool. See, it's a good idea, because then you keep the listeners fresh, instead of giving them a whole album at once, and then they have to wait, they digest it over a year or two or whatever, and then you write another whole album. If you just consecutively put out songs, people are always going to be coming back, they're going to be hungry for more, in other words, you know what I mean?
Hey, you mentioned that Brad may do some vocals on Part 2. Is that right? Possibly?
I mean, he's already recorded the vocals before we retrack the drums with a new drummer. But because we retrack the drums and rhythm guitar and bass, he might retrack his vocals as well.
Okay.
Just, because the drums are changed a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it's added a new dynamic, which might affect what he has previously recorded. So I'm not sure. I think he is going to get in there and do a couple of new things, just to enhance it, make it that much better. I personally would like to reduce a lot of my solos too, just because might as well. Everything else is fresh. Why not, make everything current? So
True deal. True.
That's kind of where we're at with that.
Now Brad produced this album, correct? Or this EP, right?
Yes, he did. We had some help. We initially were going to go with Daniel Castleman and Daniel did a couple of mixes for us. Matter of fact, we have Left to Follow. The single is not the same as Left to Follow on the album. That was produced by Daniel Castleman, and we ended up not finishing the record with him just over. I don't think he was used to dealing with bands where you actually needed to hear the bass player. Because a lot of the metalcore bands, you don't really hear the bass player in there. But with our band, even though we might be lumped a little bit into that genre somewhat, we're not a metalcore band because we're still very progressive, and every instrument counts, and every instrument does something important that needs to be heard. In other words, nothing can be lost in the mix. And then a good friend and mentor of Brad's, Dean DiCioso, he did a mix of the album, and then we still felt like there was some things that needed to be changed, and then Brad went in and did the final mix of it. But if it wasn't for Dean, Brad wouldn't have been able to get the mix that he got on it. So Dean's input was that important. Dean's a great guy, man. I love him to death, man. He's super cool. So he helped a lot to get it to where Brad could go in and get it to where it needed to be for us. You know what I mean?
Right.
If Dean would have been able to start with us from scratch and to get all the tones, Dean got handed this thing that was kind of a mess, and he was trying to salvage it, and so it's not anything on his part, in other words.
I know you guys have some crazy song titles on these on the first EP. Yep. I thought was really cool. But any songs for you, man, that stand out more to you than any, if possible, maybe?
Well, I don't know. A little bit about the song titles, just so you know why some of them are so crazy. When we're writing the songs in rehearsal, because we actually do stuff that most bands don't do anymore, and that's we actually go to the rehearsal room and we write together. We don't sit at home and send files back and forth and whatnot. We actually get in the room like what I consider to be a real band, and we get in there and hash it out. Mm-hmm. I'll come to rehearsal with all the riffs, and then as a band, we put the song together and arrange it as a band. And then from that point, then Brad will write the vocals and vocal melodies. So in the meantime, we'll give these songs little pet names, so we know what the heck to call it. So once we say, the new one, well, which new one? So, Guitars and Laser Beams was something, that has nothing to do with the song. The voice of Morgan Freeman has nothing to do with the song. And the problem was, what happened was all the guys in the band were so used to calling it those names. When Brad would say, okay, well, let's do this one and say the name of it, that it was after he wrote the lyrics, everybody look at each other and go, what? And he go, voice of Morgan Freeman. We go, oh, okay, cool. So, we were finally just like, whatever. Left to Follow used to be called Stretchy Song because we do these chords that are real big stretches. And there was another one that was called like Double Hops with Jackie Sorensen. And there was the Robert Duvall acting method. And, those didn't stick, but they were pretty fun nonetheless. Our other guitar player, Matt, was really clever and witty with that kind of stuff.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. So it's pretty funny, and I think most bands are like that. They just don't stick with their rehearsal room names. But it was one of those things where it's like, hey, this is really kind of funny, and it's going to give people are going to scratch their head and go, what the hell, So that's why we kind of did it, and that's just kind of we all have a real great sense of humor. We're very funny. It's lucky we get anything done. We joke around so much. We're a bunch of goofy nerds, but that's what makes it so much fun. We're serious about our music, and we love to have fun and laugh and cut up, and don't take it too serious, because then, everybody's going to go home butthurt. Yeah. But that's the cool thing about this band. Everybody's a professional musician, not necessarily everybody's a schooled musician, but in a way we are. I'm pretty much self-taught, but I did take some theory in high school and college. The other guitar player, Matt, took lessons from me for years and then went off to North Texas and got a degree in jazz. I don't even know what his degree is. He's got like a degree in like music theory, science, or whatever. It's just like insane. He can come to rehearsal and write his parts down with the pad and paper and not even have to pick up his guitar. He's like that kind of musician. If he wasn't playing in Day of Reckoning and something happened in this band didn't work, we broke up or whatever, he would be moving to New York and playing jazz exclusively. I mean, that's where he's really at. He's doing it because, we have a, friendship from all the years he took lessons from me, and, and he's into it. He likes the music, but, that's not his forte. After graduating from North Texas, one of the most prestigious jazz schools ever. And Brad's somewhat of a school musician. He's a singer. He did all the years of choir, and he's a guitar player and a lead guitar player as well. He's got another band that he sings lead vocals in, writes all the good music, and does the solos and sings lead vocals. And he's got his own recording studio, and he's a doctor. He's got a doctorate in sports medicine and kinesiology or something like that. And he's got a wife and 2 kids. It's like, man, when do you ever sleep? So we all got it together, and Jared, that dude's just an animal. He's the youngest guy in the band, and he can play the hell out of the drums. The dude can sing. He can write, arrange, produce. He's just an all around badass. And completing the cycle is our newest bass player, Michael Millsap, aka Dr. Froth. And he doesn't really play a bass. He plays this thing I think it's called an NT stick or NS stick. I'm probably saying it wrong. No, but it's got 7 or 8 strings on it. And it's got the bass strings, and it's got the top 4 strings, I think, are like off a guitar. So he'll do this stuff where he's playing a bass line with his left hand and playing a lead line with his right hand. And if you listen to any of his stuff, you should check him out. He's on like YouTube and what is that, SoundCloud or something like that under Dr. Froth. You'll listen to stuff on there and you won't realize it, but there's no guitar player on any of the stuff. It's him playing bass lines and guitar lines and solos and stuff all at the same time. It's just him and a drummer. It's pretty intense. So, and he's pretty well educated as well. He's got schooling, knows what he's doing, can record, and those are some very important skills to have in the band, as well as knowing how to do your multimedia. Jared's really good at multimedia, getting online, knowing how to promote the band, as well as Brad. I do a lot of it as well because I'm used to doing it myself, for so many years. That's how I developed my career. It's just, it was a matter of timing, when the internet thing kicked off. And Matt does a lot of stuff for us online as well, as far as he designed some of our pages. And, everybody's kind of got their role in keeping up with things, which is really cool. Because it really takes us teamwork. Everybody's got to help in other areas aside from just playing their instruments.
It's like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, it is. But it's working, and I'm very pleased, man.
I dig it.
I just wish we had more time to commit to, rehearsing and touring, and just, I always feel like in my entire career personally, I always feel like there's something that's always stepped in my way, and something's always just been holding me back from really getting out there and doing it to the level that I want to do it at. And I think that right now, this band, once we get Jared over here and get going, I think that now's the time. I don't think there's anything that can really step in my way of us getting out there and doing it like we need to, bring it to the masses.
I like it. I think it's a really good EP. It's heavy. It's pretty damn good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's like, it's a slight departure from Outworld, which Outworld was a slight departure from my instrumental thing. But, as a guitar player, I try to always continue to evolve. And basically what I've done is I've just changed my surroundings. If you listen to my instrumental album and you listen to Outworld and you listen to Day of Reckoning, well, it's still me playing guitar. It's just that my surroundings are different, Outworld was surrounded more with keyboards and operatic vocals and longer songs and more progressiveness. And Day of Reckoning is more heavy and shorter, condensed songs with, guttural vocals and clean vocals. And my instrumental album was just full-blown shred hard, as hardcore as you can, an important thing that I've learned from my guitar heroes is as much of what to do as what not to do. Most of my guitar heroes that I looked up to in my younger years, I can't really listen to anymore because they've been putting out the same album for the last 20 years. You can't stop practicing, because when you stop practicing, you stop growing, and you stop learning new things. And that's when you start to repeat yourself. And that's one thing that I don't want to do, is become that guitar player that continues to put out the same album for the next 20 years. I want to always do something different and grow and keep learning. There's not a lot of guys out there that can do that, but I can tell you this much. A couple of guys that do always continue to learn and grow is one of them is John Petrucci. Yeah. John's a good friend of mine, and Mark Tremonti as well. Those guys are always practicing, always learning new things and pushing. And you can hear it every time they put out a new record. It's not just the same old stuff, and I commend them for that, because a lot of guys just, after they get to a certain level, they just, okay, I've made it. It's cool. Just whatever, I don't, that's not why I got into this, just to be content. if I'm not pushing it, I'm not happy.
Tremonti's new album Dust is pretty damn awesome from Mark and his group. That's a really good album. And yeah, you're right, man. You could tell his progression from album to album that he's put out, and plus what he did in Alter Bridge, and even from Creed. I mean, his guitar playing's phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, look, the new Alter Bridge CDs is killer, man. Yeah. They're killing it. And Miles Kennedy is on top of being an amazing singer. Yeah. He's a hell of a guitar player. He was a guitar player before he was a singer. Mm-hmm. He couldn't find a singer that would work out. The story goes something like that, and then he started singing. And I mean, he knows jazz. He studied theory and played in jazz bands and all kinds of other stuff. And he just doesn't go like the shred route. He goes for more the real intense feel. When you listen to Alter Bridge, he's the guy that does like a lot of the more effects and slower, bluesier, more gut-wrenching solos. And Mark's the guy that just comes in and slays and kicks ass. Yeah. Super shreds. But, not to sit here and talk about everybody else during the interview, but that's some important things to me. You know what I mean? That's what I look for when I listen to other musicians.
Right. What do you hope the fans take away from both EPs, Rusty, when they start to listen to this? What do you hope that they get from this, man?
Well, I hope a couple of things. I hope that from a guitar player and musician standpoint, that I've contributed something that people can continue to learn from as guitar players and musicians. And I hope to gain new fans from other genres that might not have listened to instrumental music or Outworld or whatnot. And I hope to continue to bring along the fans of mine that listen to my instrumental stuff, or the diehard Outworld fans that did nothing but give me hell about Day of Reckoning not being like Outworld, and why are you doing this, and why so I hope to, win over all my fans from the previous years and previous things that I've done, and gain new fans, and just contribute musically to leave something for people to learn from and to be inspired by and inspired to learn and practice themselves. And for the non-musicians, just to give them some music that just makes them, want to rage or feel good or help them get through hard times or whatever it might be. I remember I ran into some guy. I was getting a sandwich at Jimmy John's or something. And the guy behind the counter was like, "Hey, you're Rusty Cooley, are you?" So yeah, and he goes, "Man, your album, dude, I can't tell you, that instrumental album got me through some hard times, bro. Thank you."
Jeez.
I mean, it's things like that make it all worth it, because a lot of people just get the image that non-musician types or up-and-coming musicians think that just because you have a record out or something like that you're instantly a rock star and you make a lot of money, and that's not always the case. It's a struggle, and it's tough all over. You know what I mean? So to help people with my music get through some tough times. I mean, I can tell you albums that helped me get through tough times. That it was like, wow, if it wasn't for that record, dude, who knows what would happen. So yeah. That's pretty cool. Just to inspire people and, make them feel good and want to rock out or, whatever. It's like, when you're getting ready to go out on a Friday night and you have that certain CD you listen to get pumped up, and you crank it and you're driving like 90, it's like my brother used to tell me when he was driving to work in the morning, he'd listen to my instrumental record because it was like coffee for him. He'd crank it up. He didn't need to drink coffee listening to my instrumental record.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What can fans expect at a show from the Mighty Day of Reckoning once you guys start to hit the road with this, or if you plan on hitting the road with this?
We definitely plan on hitting the road with this, man. We have to plan smartly because we're not young boys in our 20s anymore, and we have a lot of responsibilities and commitments. So we have to plan what we do very carefully, and if it means going out and coming home and just breaking even, that's something that we're willing to do. We all have, I teach guitar full time. Brad's a doctor at UTMB, and Matt, my other guitar player, teaches, and Jared, he's going to be moving over here from India, trying to, figure out what he's going to do. What a culture shock, and Michael, he works full time too, and he's got a wife and kids, and so we all have adult stuff to do. We're not kids anymore, so we can't just like go out on tour endlessly and come home broke and plop back down on mom and dad's couch and not have to worry about it, Yeah. So we have to take smart gigs, things that are going to get us in front of the right people at the right time, not just go out and take a gig to take a gig so we can play in front of 10 kids one night, it's got to be the right thing. We did a tour earlier this year with Darkest Hour that was really cool. We recently got to open up for Alter Bridge at their CD release party in Dallas at Dallas Blues, and we're possibly going to be doing some touring with Tremonti and is touring with Niall as well. Those are some things that are in the works right now. So, that's kind of what we want to do. I mean, that's been the big thing that's been missing from my entire career is doing any kind of extensive touring. I mean, I've played all over the U.S. and Mexico City and whatnot, but it's always been like clinics or things like that, It hasn't been like I've gotten a van or a tour bus and went out on the road for 6 months, and I'd like to experience that, I want to play the bigger venues and festivals and things like that.
For sure. Yeah, get on these festivals like Rock on Range and Welcome
absolutely.
to Rockville, stuff like that. Yeah, for sure.
I want to play Vakken.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that would be so sick.
That would be like the pinnacle of anybody's career. You know what I mean? Because that's like a week time festival over there. I mean, it's like everything shuts down.
Yeah, it's massive, dude. I want to play that, and get outside the U.S. because, the U.S. is a hard market for what we do. I think we do really good in Europe and whatnot, some other countries, and Japan, and we'd be huge in Japan. Isn't that what everybody says?
Just about.
So that's because we're all. Well, I wouldn't be huge in Japan. I'm about the size of a Japanese guy. No, all jokes aside, but we had a couple of we've got a new drummer, Jared, obviously, and a new bass player. But our old drummer was like 6'4", and our old bass player was about 6'4" too. So we had some like really giant dudes. And Brad, our lead singer, is a friggin' power lifter. On top of that, so he's like he's just a beast. His neck is like the size of my thigh. Yeah, so he's a beast, man.
Jeez.
So yeah,
I know that we're living in the day of the digital era of recording albums, stuff like that. But are you digging this the way it is right now, or what would you prefer, man?
Man, I want to go back and record like when you had to be a real musician and had to play your part. You couldn't go, okay, well, let me just get one good pass and you cut and paste.
Yeah.
Let's go to ADATs, man. Let's go back to tape. I want to go back to recording like that. Kids today, these kids that are in all these bands, they sit at home and they don't know how to jam because they send parts back and forth. If you get them in a room, they look at each other and don't know what to do. I'll give you a good example of that is when we were auditioning everybody that we brought in could play our old drummer's stuff, but part of the audition was I would throw riffs at them that we were working on for new songs, and they had to be able to on the fly play. And, they couldn't do it. The stuff that they played just wasn't it. And I'd have to stand there as a guitar player trying to explain to the drummer what to do. And if I've got to tell a drummer what to do, there's something wrong with it. That'd be like a drummer telling me what to do,
Yeah, yeah.
And I did it. So what I did, this is how I knew Jared was the right guy, on top of the fact that he just nailed the video demos. When we would have guys come in, I would have to literally stand there for 30 minutes and try to explain to them what I had in mind and my vision and the thought process for the song. Just as on a whim, I sent the MP3, just scratch rhythm guitar tracks to a click, one with click and one without click to Jared. I didn't tell him one thing about it. And I said, hey, man, see what you can do to this. And the next morning, in my inbox, I had exactly what I wanted and envisioned done in those parts. And that was right when I knew this is the dude. I didn't tell him nothing. I mean, I didn't say nothing. I just said, see what you can do with this. And he did exactly what I wanted, man. It's like, all right, dude, get your ass over here. So, and I think that's the problem, getting back to your original question, with this whole digital age and stuff like that. Kids, they don't get in the rehearsal room and practice and write songs together. They send bits and pieces back and forth, and then they rely on their computers live to have all their extra whatever soundscapes or whatever that stuff is they call it. I want to see these bands nowadays that play without their computers. Let me hear you just play your instruments. Yeah, just get out there and do it. I mean, can you imagine? Look at Leonard Skinner, man. They had 3 guitar players.
Yeah.
Dudes had to get in the studio and they had to play their shit. And if they fucked up, excuse my language.
No, you're fine.
They had to stop, take the tape off the reel, cut and splice it, and put it back together. I mean, you had 3 guitar players in the band. That's a big thing. And getting all those dudes together and playing and being tight, man, those dudes could play, man. Anybody from that era could play, because they had to. There was no such thing as, play it once and then we'll copy and paste it 5 times.
Yep.
Play it. I remember when I first started recording instrumental stuff, the first instrumental that I ever recorded was on a 4-track. And man, we couldn't cut and splice, and even then, because it was just a cassette and a 4-track. So if you got to the last 5 seconds of the song and screwed up, you had to go all the way back to the beginning and start over. So what I ended up with was about 5 passes, and we just picked the best one because each one of them had a mess up somewhere in it. That was really young days, and not to say that I could do that perfect now, but it's a different era. Nowadays, kids can just whatever, they don't have to, they're not responsible for it. They don't really have to play like we did. And the guys that all preceded, Eddie and Randy and,
right.
and all the dudes in the 60s and coming up in the 50s and when recording started, man, you had to really play. That's what's missing today.
In your own opinion, Rusty, what does Day of Reckoning bring to the table for music that's not out there right now, man?
Well, it's kind of what I was saying a little bit earlier, because Day of Reckoning is heavier than anything that I've done. And what we bring is that heaviness, but still with the elements of shred, a very intense guitar playing, and with elements of prog, progressive metal. So it's kind of a combination of my instrumental days, Outworld, and a modern metal band like Killswitch or As I Lay Dying or Lamb of God or Nevermore, Soilwork, Meshuggah, stuff like that. So we're bringing the technical progressive elements along with intense guitar and drumming and bass and shredding stuff with a modern metal sound with a singer that can sing both modern metal and can sing. It's pretty rare to find a guy that can sing that well and do the guttural vocals. So I think we bring a lot to the table because there's not very many bands out there that can do that. It's either one thing or the other. And when you get in these modern metalcore bands, and I hate saying genres because to me it's either metal or it's not. But a lot of these bands don't have that level of musicianship in their band. So it's kind of like we bring the Outworld Dream Theater Symphony X thing to a really heavy modern kind of thing. So I think we bring a lot to offer people that aren't musicians, as well as to give something to musicians to aspire from and learn from and whatnot. You'd be surprised at some of the people that come up to us after the show and go, "Wow, that was really good. I wasn't expecting to like that." So like if somebody's parent came or an older, old school dude came or whatever. I mean, and I'm pretty damn old school myself, but I keep myself from being old school in the sense that I always listen to music and I always listen to what's current, and I always try to listen and learn from everything that I can. I listen to everything, dude. From disco to country to whatever, metal, classical, jazz, funk, fusion, because there's something you can take from that and channel it into what you do. That's what makes people more original. If you just listen to one thing, you're just going to regurgitate that one thing and you're never going to bring nothing new to the table. That's why the market gets so saturated with all these bands that sound the same, because they're just listening to one another. And then somebody makes a hit off of it, and then all the record labels want everybody to do that one sound, and that's where burnout comes in, So you'll never have to worry about that from Day of Reckoning, because we write the songs we write, not because we have to write a certain way or we want to write to fit into a certain thing. And it's just, if one song comes out and it's heavy, it's heavy. If one song comes out and it's real melodic or poppy, then so be it. We're not going to go, we can't do this because it's not this. We just play the music we write.
Yeah, but you may be old school, but you're still, when you listen to your riffs and guitar playing, damn it, it's like fresh of breath air. It's still good shit, man. So that's because I continue to stay current, and listen to these. So it's because I'm such a technical player. I'll hear what these guys in these modern metal bands are doing, and then I'll take it, and then I'll crank it up a notch. Some of the damn rhythm guitar shit that I'm writing now is harder than my solos. Wow.
It's pretty insane. From a guitar player term, I don't know if you know much about this kind of stuff or not, but a lot of my rhythms have what we call inside picking. And inside picking is when you're picking in between the strings instead of on the outsides of the strings, and that's very difficult to do. And sometimes it'll flip from inside picking to outside picking, and that's a whole other challenge in itself. But it's not something I do on purpose. It's something that just happens. And then, like I said, I let the music go where the music goes. I don't dictate it. It kind of comes out that way.
Right.
And then I do a lot of chords. Most metal bands don't use chords. I'll use chords that you would associate with other styles of music like jazz or funk or blues, and I'll play these big voicings and big stretched out intervallic chords like I was talking about Left to Follow. If you watch the video for that song, you'll notice that in the verse and the chorus I'm stretching from like the 2nd fret all the way to the 7th fret.
Yeah.
And then the next chord's from like, one of the chords is like from 5 to 11 or 12, and it's with a string skip, so we're doing these big things that other guys would do a drop D for or something like that. And it's like, I'm not going to do that, dude. I'm just going to play it, That's why we wear our straps a little bit higher. Not just to look like a nerd, but you can't play our stuff with your strap down to your knees, but you need it's just not possible, And and I wear my strap a bit lower than I used to because Outworld was, I don't want to say more challenging, but I really had to have my guitar up for most everything I did in Outworld, and I can lower my strap a little bit in Day of Reckoning, not a whole lot. It's still pretty high, but Matt, our other guitar player, his guitar is really high, and we always mess with him. It was funny because I'm not that guy with the highest strap anymore. But hey, I gave up on trying to look cool a long time ago. I would much rather sound good and play well and play comfortably.
Yeah.
Be fighting and trying to look cool and then sound like crap and make a bunch of mistakes because I'm trying to look cool.
Yeah.
And then you end up not looking cool because you're messing up. When you see guitar players go to the monitor and put their foot on that monitor and put that guitar up on their knee, that's because their strap isn't high enough. That's what they're doing. Anytime you see like Petrucci's got these custom made, because Dream Theater doesn't use monitors anymore. They use in-ears. So John was like, holy crap, I don't have a place to put my foot anymore. So he had his roadie build these things that are like monitors on each side of his pedal board. So when he needs to lift his leg up and put his guitar on it, when he needs to be up extra high, that's what he does, which is a brilliant idea. I've been thinking about myself going to in-ears because, when you get out and play these clubs, you never know what you're going to get for a sound man unless you take your own guy. So it's a pretty cool concept.
So Into the Fire Part 2, when will this be out for us to get our hands on it, man?
As soon as possible. I don't have a date, and I don't know exactly. It's going to be out by summer at the latest. I mean, because it's not going to take long. I mean, I'm going to go track rhythm guitars, and it's only five. It's five. Let me hang on. I got this set around there somewhere because I was rehearsing the songs because I was going to go in this weekend and do them, but then I decided to just recharge the batteries. But let me see here. I think I have it on my desktop. There are going to be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's 5 or 6 songs. I'm trying to find this document. It's either going to be 5 or 6 songs on this part 2, and I'm thinking about putting a little guitar surprise in there somewhere. And but like I said, hopefully the latest would be this summer. But we really don't have much to do other than put my guitar down, and then if I decide to do some solos, redo my solos, and whatever Brad needs to do vocally, and then mix and master. And it's pretty much already mixed because we already had it mixed, but then we decided to redo the drums, so there'll still need to be some mixing and then send it off to be mastered, and and we can release it immediately. We don't have to have hard copies to release it. We can get those later if necessary. We've already got the artwork for the second thing, so that's already ready, and we already know what songs we're going to shoot videos for. And so, but it is what it is. It's the music business, and who knows what can happen in between now and then. Maybe something great will happen and we'll get it out sooner, or maybe we'll get picked up and get a record deal, or I don't want to think the worst, but something always gets in your way, man. Life happens when you're trying to do something else.
That was another thing I was going to ask. Are there any songs that didn't make these 2 EPs that will probably or maybe be on another Day of Reckoning album?
Well, I tell you what, there was a song that wasn't going to make it on this EP, but when we had our new drummer redo it, it's on it now. Because there was going to be a song that wasn't going to make it. Our old drummer we had to do so many drum edits on it that it was just not worth it. And Jared came in and nailed it, man. So that song's going to make it on the record. There was one thing that there was supposed to be a little interlude, and that's going to be left off. There was something that was supposed to be maybe a 2 to 3 minute, probably not a 3 minute, maybe 1 to 2 minute little interlude, little instrumental. It was supposed to be before the voice of Morgan Freeman, that we ran out of time and didn't get to do that. So it'll probably show up somewhere, not necessarily on part 2, but maybe somewhere on another album. But I'm very pleased that we're getting to do that other song that we weren't able to do because the last drummer. So that's going to be sick, man. It's just really fast and nonstop intensity. So that's going to make it. Thank God.
As always, I've told you this before, thank you for your music. Thank you for your guitar stuff that you put out. And thanks for you guys forming Day of Reckoning, because I really dig it, and I hope everybody else digs it too. So thanks, man. Hey,
thank you, man. And thanks for, giving me the opportunity to do an interview and getting the word out for us, man. We really appreciate it. It's guys like you that help us get out there, man. So thank you.
How can folks stay in touch with you guys? Buy some merchandise, find out some tour dates when this is all going to break down? How can they do that, Rusty?
Yep. The easiest place to find out is go to Day of Reckoning's Facebook page, which I believe is just Day of Reckoning Metal.
Okay.
And you'll notice you say, I think it's called Day of Reckoning Metal. Worst case scenario, go to my website and follow the links. rustycooley.com will take you to my Facebook page. I've got a fan page that's Rusty Cooley 1 is my personal page, I think, and Real Rusty Cooley is my fan page. And you can find out, worst case scenario, you can find us from there. And you can find the CD on iTunes, on Amazon, CD Baby, and it's on TuneCore, and what's that other thing, Bandcamp or something like
Spotify.
That. No, I think we chose not to do Spotify.
Oh,
because how much money they take from you.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
I think we decided not to do that, but who knows? It's probably on there now. You know how that goes.
Yeah, that's true. Before I let you go, good sir, will you care to do a promo for the show?
All right, you got it. This is Rusty Cooley from Day of Reckoning, and you are listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great music coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and Uber City Radio. Thanks, Rusty.
You're welcome, brother. Thank you.